Welcome to another episode of You Good Bro podcast here with JD.
And John.
And today's topic is about the tall poppy syndrome, which I'll explain to you later in the episode.
I had no idea what it was. So.
Yeah. It's just a video I watched. Shout out Dr Byron Cole. And it's just a bit about culture within the UK and about ambition. And just tall poppy syndrome, it's all to do with ambition. Mm-hmm. But as always do on You Good Bro. You good, bro? How you been?
I'm good, bro. The funny bit of cringe film I was wearing last week's gone. It's healing up quite nice, a little touch-ups. Once again, shout out to Clee at Nala's Tattoo. I keep on saying Emporium. Nala's Tattoo Studio, Tamworth, near Birmingham.
Yeah, it's good. You say it back to me.
Oh my God. How about you, bro? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you know what? It's been another week of summer which I've enjoyed. You know, football is on.
Yeah.
Shame about the weather. It's got a bit rainy again. I missed the heat wave. Or maybe not the 35 degrees, but it hopefully it'll come back. But maybe not 35 degrees.
I don't know. I've kind of got a thing about this, about people complaining about the weather. I'm like, as soon as it goes, people will be complaining again. You know what I mean? So, and it's kind of like, you know, when you got a blocked nose, when you haven't got a blocked nose, and then you have a blocked nose, and you really cherish them times that you didn't have a blocked nose. It's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know what? Something I forgot to mention last week is a few of our peers were at Cannes Lions, which is the biggest content creator event. Shout out former guest Romy, who was at Cannes Lions, and there was a bunch of people there, including like talks from like the likes of Oprah, Tina Knowles, a bunch of different brands were there. I saw like Canva were there. I saw Facebook. I saw all these different brands. So congratulations.
Joe and Jada. I see that Joe and Jadakiss were there.
At what?
At
Cannes Lions.
Yeah, man.
I saw everyone from Kevin Durant. I saw
there.
YouTube. It was like the YouTube royalty and all the different sort of content creators. So for our former guest to be, that's really great. So
that's Rob Ball. Shout outs to Rob Ball. I seen it on his Insta. Like, couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Joe and Jada.
Yeah. So shout out to our former guest for being there. Yes. You know, it's definitely something which, you know, is well revered, and we're happy for you to be there.
And did you see the walk and talks that are going on?
Yeah. Shout out Shan as well. Shout out Shan. Shan's if you watch my other project, and watch her walk and talks. Shan was a guest on What's on Your Mind, talking about creativity as well, and hopefully she'll be a guest on You Good Bro as well.
Hopefully she will.
Yeah. You know, but it comes on to a video that I watched, because I think like watching the videos of Cannes Lions, it was like very ambitious.
That was jealous.
Very, you know, it's really good. It was really good. Yeah. But one thing I noticed is, and this is nothing to do with Cannes Lions, I watched a video by someone called Dr Byron Cole, who's like a businessman in the UK. And it's something which I picked up on, which was he made a video about the tall poppy syndrome and what that is. So for those listeners that don't know, I've just made some notes about the tall poppy syndrome. So what it is it's the tendency to resent, criticize, and try to cut down people who stand out, succeed, or take risks. And the poppy that grows taller, the rest gets sived out. Basically, that's the sort of term around tall poppy syndrome. Hopefully, if I explained that correctly.
That's a good way of kind of describing that, I guess.
Yeah, because I think like what happens is, and I've noticed this, is in the UK, especially, is if you stand out, or you're a bit if you're a bit confident, then you're seen as arrogant. Or if you do something a bit different, which is not the status quo of getting a job, settling down, you know, or you do something which is a bit creative, people are quick to be like, oh, you're doing your little podcast, oh, you're doing a little project here. And it's not taken seriously. I think both, I don't know if you notice this, but like working in the creative industry, I've noticed how belittling it can be.
Yeah, massive.
You know, when people doing creative projects.
Things like you say, not taken seriously, it's like, oh, like your little thing that you're doing on the side. It's like, yeah, but it's still a big part of our lives, and it's still put a lot of time into it. It's not just like a diddy thing that just kind of happens over there. Like, you know, it's a lot, and we enjoy doing it, and it's a hobby to us, but it doesn't mean it's any less important than our day jobs. But
I think it's like, you know what, with the tall poppy syndrome, what stands out to me is it's almost like, it's like this constant like humbling thing that society puts on you where it's like you try something new, you start your business, you'll start your creative project, you'll start something, and then it'll just be humbling of just be like, you know, the amount of times people are like, oh, you know, you might have a creative project on the go, and it's like, oh, you're gonna settle down, or you're gonna get a regular job, and it's like, no, this is the one shot I have, so let's try something.
That and something like Dr. Byron said in that video that I listened to earlier, when he kind of says that people are kind of told, okay, do well, but not too well.
Yeah.
Well, but stay humble.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why not celebrate your wins?
Yeah.
You know, which we talked about with Conduit weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think it just ties into that. But it's just something interesting I thought we'd cover. But the first thing we'd say is there's always a term that everyone says online, UK's bad vibes, which kind of ties into tall poppy syndrome. Do you think it's specifically a British thing, or do you think it's like more like our circumstances, like a city thing, like a London or Manchester thing?
I don't know, because you probably move in more London circles than I do. But I don't know, I think to me, I reckon it's probably UK, but I don't know. But like looking at London, they do tend to help each other a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like when it's come to creative.
No, but
I don't know if that's true.
But like what I mean by bad vibes is I mean like, you know, like when you meet an American or you meet like someone from another part of the world, like where you meet a Canadian, you're just like, oh, tell us about Vancouver. Oh my God, it's great. It's got you can go hiking, you can go thing. You say something to the UK, right? You say, tell us about Stoke. Tell us about tell us about the city. The first thing that someone will say is something negative.
That's true. That's true. I think it's almost kind of seen as cool to call your own city like a shithole or whatever.
Yeah.
It's edgy. It's like, well, no, why not shout out about Manchester? Why not shout out about Stoke-on-Trent? Why not shout out about that? Like, every city's got something good about it. You know what I mean?
But it's like self-deprecating.
It is,
and
I think that's very British.
I think that comes into the sort of ambition side of things as well, where it's like there's also constant humbling of you, and it's like there's a culture of taking a piss out of someone, and then it tips into undermining. So it's very like, you know, I've got friends who start businesses, and I got friends who are sort of doing their own thing, but because it's not this, it's not A, B, and C. It's like, you know, something outside of that. People can kind of go, oh, you know, like make little jokes. Like I get sent, even I get sent little memes. Oh, when you're doing your street interviews, when you're doing this, and it's like, I
saw that one.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind it because I can take it, but a lot of people, that's what I mean by tall poppy syndrome. There's always some sort of humbling there where it's like,
put that on your podcast.
Or something like that, where it's kind of like, it's like it can tip into undermining people, but it's knowing the difference where it's like, you know, we're very like,
I think, you know, it all depends on who it is. If it's like our close circle shouts the MR group, if it's like, you know, our close circle, then it's a joke. You get it's a joke.
Yeah.
What if people like you don't even really know to?
Yeah.
It's almost like it comes across that jealousy sometimes, or like maybe they want to do something similar and haven't got around to it. I don't know.
Well, there's like everyday examples like WhatsApp groups, social media comments, where like there's ambition, where you make an ambition to make a change or create a brand or to start something new, where visible effort gets met with sarcasm instead of support.
Yeah. And you know what? I see this a lot, as I want to say. It's free to give like your friend or whatever. I'm not digging out anyone here, but it's free. Pause. It's free to support someone, to like something, to share something. It's free. You know what I mean? But we'd rather share things that are already well established and not need it than like the baker down the road or your mate who's trying. You know what I mean? So
I think it's that thing where it's like, and I think this is maybe a UK thing where it's like, you look to this level here, but the people on your level with you don't grow with. We're fortunate enough to be around creatives who similar level to us, and we're all elevating together, which is why I thought I'd shout out those who got the opportunity to be at Cannes Lions, because those are people who've supported us, 100%. We've supported them, and that's but that's rare. That is rare, not only in just like in the creative space, it's rare as in British society. So I think one thing is as well is, you know, when coming on to like contrast of other cultures, like again, we talked a lot about America last week, but like America have this main character energy where it's like they have this like unbearable belief in themselves. You know, like you say, like an American dream, right? The American dream happens because they just won't stop. Whereas like we're just kind of like, whatever.
It's almost like you almost feel like you have to be humble, otherwise, like you say,
Yeah.
you're seen as arrogant. Whereas the Americans, they don't give
They
a shit about looking arrogant. They like, you know what?
Hustle culture.
I am the shit, and that's that.
Hustle culture. Like I remember when I lived in Canada, I went to a family wedding in Times Square, right? And you're seeing people. No. I went to a wedding, and when I was in New York, during. So I went to a wedding, and when I was in New York, I visited Times Square. You're seeing hustle. You're seeing people selling CDs. This was back in like 2014. So you're seeing people selling CDs. You're seeing people photography. You're seeing people doing pictures. You're seeing people hand out the flyers for the business. They're just hustling because they have that energy.
I feel like we had that back in like 2005 on Market Street in Manchester.
A little bit, but
not to the degree.
To the degree of like, that's where it's just like, I just have this undying belief that I'm gonna get somewhere. So it's like there's that saying, and I think it kind of ties into like this topic, is where it becomes it's cringe and it becomes cool. So it's like, oh, you guys are starting a podcast, cool. I'm not saying this about anyone, but in particular, I'm just saying there's a whole thing where it's like, oh, men are starting podcasts, there'll be podcast licenses and all this, but it's like for every podcast, there's always someone trying something new.
Exactly.
And it doesn't just stem to podcasts. It could be any sort of form of media or any sort of medium where you just any business. And I think what seems to happen is there's a celebration of self-promotion in America, which lacks here.
Yeah.
Is it, do you think, just to ask you this, just before we wrap this topic, do you think self-promotion is more common in America, or do you think UK has a healthier approach to sort of like promoting yourself, or is it just is it like dressed up as insecurity?
I feel like what you're saying there about America, like, you know, being on the street level, doing it there. I don't feel there's as much as that anymore, because we've got the internet and Instagram and everything. You know, it's just as easy to sit on your ass on your couch and go on Instagram and say, I'll just post that, which is fine. And I'm not, that's a really good way to be. And you know, that's how most people get successful, by putting the stuff out on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Back then, it was more, you had to kind of go out. Like, people selling CDs on Market Street. That was the only way to get it, because you couldn't, like, sell Spotify. Now, if I want to put a tune on Spotify, I can record and I can put it on Spotify tomorrow. You couldn't do that back in the day. You had to sell physical. And what's it? Jeremy used to press finals and all that, didn't he?
Shout out Jeremy.
Wiley used to press finals.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, go and get the thing pressed and then go out at car boot. And is it not a car boot sale, but to sell it out the back of the car boot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas now you can just like, oh, is my Spotify link?
For sure. But like, this is probably a better question for you. Like, in terms of your own experience, like even like before talking before the podcast, because you can talk about our experience of the podcast together, right? Yeah. But like, when you started your projects, right? What was the initial reception? Because like, you started early doing creative projects.
Yeah.
What was that initial reception? Did people take you seriously, or were people like, because look where you are now, in comparison to when you were like 16?
I think I had a good circle. Luckily, I had a good circle. Back then, there weren't many sort of like certainly local black filmmakers. And actually, like, I owe my career to two people. One is Karen Shannon from Let's Go Global. I never forget what they did for me in terms of letting me get my hands on the equipment and doing stuff, letting me go in the office whenever I wanted, whatever time of day, to edit stuff. Like, I'll never ever, you know, I can never repay them for that. And Clive Hunt, who I will forever, big City fan too. I often see him at games and stuff. Clive Hunt, met him and changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. So I had a good circle. He basically showed me, because he's a filmmaker, he showed me his like films and stuff and whatever. And he believed I had something and put me in touch with the right people, which was then Let's Go Global. And then I got into the BBC when I was 17. So from that, like, I owe them a debt of gratitude. So to me, I had good people around me that did believe in me anyway. So what everyone else thought, I didn't really care, because I had a really good, solid foundation around me. So I think for that reason, I was okay. But you get a lot of people that aren't, maybe. And it all depends on what circle you're in.
Yeah, because it's like, I couldn't talk. Like, this is probably, like I said, when I did a few creative projects when I was younger.
Yeah. What about you? Like, how did people look at you, or what did you say?
Well, I've said this before. I said this in an interview when I did the walk and talk. Check out that interview as well. It's on YouTube and Instagram. I said, like, I've been a private person for a long time. So having this sort of platform, a podcast, it's kind of me like coming up to a public space again and going, okay, cool. Because I think for a long time I was like I said, I grew up and I used to go to drama as a kid. So I've been in public like in the public for a while, like when I was at school, like I was go to like do plays every year and stuff like that, and I felt confident, and then I stopped for a while, and then when the podcast idea came along, it was kind of like, I was a bit like, I had genuine support, but then there was a lot of people who were like, oh, I didn't realize, not knowing the group chat, and I think what happens is you've got to sort of just realize that you're doing it for you.
Yeah.
Because what they say with the tall poppy syndrome is they say, like, a lot of people are scared to stand out and are scared to just be their authentic selves. And sometimes when you're wanting to do something, you have to sort of go, okay, look, everyone's doing this, I'll try that. Not everyone does podcasts. A lot of people do podcasts. I'm not saying that in particular. I'm just saying, like, if you want to do something that you're passionate about, at some point there's going to be a sacrifice. There's going to be some sort of thing that makes you uncomfortable. For me, it was being in front of the camera and talking, but now I can talk for days. I can talk for days. So I just think it's again, it's like with the what's on your mind as well. It's like, these are things I wanted to do forever, but I never had the confidence to do it. All it takes is being in the right circle, as you say, to have that catalyst to go, you know what, I'm comfortable doing this now, let's try that. And it's going to extend to my future projects, which I can't mention just yet. But and I think it stems down to like our ethos of the podcast, which is the emotional core of the episode, which is just be honest rather than performative. It's is what we do. As I've said across a lot of episodes, we talk like this anyway. So it doesn't feel like we're being performative. It's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. So, but coming on to the next section, why do you think people don't embrace those who stand out?
Oh, do you know what? There could be a lot of deep-seated reasons for this, I think, with people. I think, like, you can get the people that maybe really want to do what you're doing or something like it, and just haven't got the motivation, B, the resources, or C, that the backing, or maybe they've been like, maybe they've had that idea and they've been taking a piss out by people. Maybe you don't know. So I think there can be a number of reasons why that's the case. And again, people quite often are scared of difference and different, different kind of ways of being, or different cultures, different people. So that's why, if it isn't the status quo, or it's not another football podcast, or it's not another, by the way, shouts to Khalid who does a football podcast.
United Discussions. Shout United Discussions.
I'm just saying that if it's anything different from the norm, or like I say, people that stand out, I don't know, I feel people are a bit like, oh, that's a bit, I don't know, or maybe a lot of people want to gauge what everyone else does first.
Do you know what I think it is? I think the UK has a weird thing of being like humble, but almost too humble. Because I feel like what we're scared of, we see confidence as braggadocious. Because America have undying confidence, and sometimes it can come across as arrogance.
Well, a lot of people say that Americans are arrogant.
And believe what you want. I feel like it's a very, nuanced sort of term. But like, I think a lot of people look at America and go, I don't want to be that. So even if I get to a certain success level, I can't show it because I don't want to be it. And it comes into, again, the topic we see, and I watch a lot of Byron Cole's videos. He's a businessman. And one of the videos he has, because he talks about, I've seen it in his interview, he has a budget, because he has a few fancy cars. He's done really well for himself, and he's worked hard. He has a budget for paying to get scratches repaired on his car.
Oh, okay. He has a separate budget.
He has a separate budget for that, because he realizes that there is a lot of people out there who see his cars and go, oh, this guy, there might be, he's back, but they might look at him and say like, oh, this person's here, and there's a lot of arrogance with that. So he has a budget specifically for that, because it's this weird like thing
in that way. I mean, well, I guess if his car doesn't get scratched, it's an extra part. But
I think it's a few. There's a few things there. There's like a fear of being left behind. There's like projection of someone's own ambitions, because the amount of times you speak to people and they might be in one career, it might be a really good career, but it's like, oh, I wish I did music, or I wish I did DJ, and I wish it. There's nothing to stop you doing that.
Yeah, but you seeing someone else become successful, maybe someone that was at the same level as you are, or maybe you're in the same field and you see someone else being more successful in the same field, and that makes you feel a way, or you think, oh, why am I not getting as big as that person? Why am I not getting these opportunities? You know, so there's a number of reasons why.
Yeah, and it's that crabs in the bucket mentality where it's like you want to bring people down instead of celebrating those people, and you see it a lot. You see it a lot. I was reading an article about, how people sometimes stay in their hometown and stuff like that. And then there's a big brain drain, and then people move to the likes of Manchester and London. And there's a big resentment towards, especially from small communities, towards cities, because it's like, you're going to the big smoke, you're going to London, you're going to Manchester, and then you come back and it's like,
I had that when I worked at RCV Wales for a bit, and I was in the went out to the sticks. Well, most places in Wales are the sticks, unless you live in Swansea, Cardiff, or Newport. So I was out, and it's a lovely story. And the people were, I don't think they were being horrible, but they asked me where I'm from and that, because obviously I didn't sound Welsh. And they were like, all right, so from Manchester. And is it animals? So I don't know. So you get a bit of that, and then you almost then, because of that, you feel like, what, do I look arrogant? Do I look across like I'm from the big city and you're from the bush?
Because
I like that.
Because again, like when you say, for example, you might go uni, or you might be successful, you might get a business, you stand out from the crowd. So a lot of people will go, and that's what the tall poppy syndrome is, where you stand out from the crowd, or people might look at you and go, people might look at you and say, oh, you grew up in this part of the world, or you from this background, you from this, and you got here. And they're looking for ways, and you see it in the media all the time, that tall poppy syndrome can be reflected on a lot of things. Look at Raheem Sterling. I always use an example, because you look at where he came from, you look at his background, look how his every single thing that he's done is a fine-tooth comb, and you break so many sort of barriers getting as successful as you do. That's an example. I think the media plays a big part in the tall poppy syndrome.
They actually did put two headlines side by side. Was it Foden and Sterling?
Both working class backgrounds, by the way.
Exactly. And Sterling's was, I think he bought a new bathroom for his mum or something, I don't know. And it was like the way that the air of the paper framed it was that he's arrogant, he's flashy, he's showing. Foden buys his mum a gaff or whatever, and it's like, oh look, Foden's got him a gaff. That's lovely. And the media, certain I always say certain corners of the media do have a big part to play in that, and a big part to play in how the public kind of see figures in that way, and how they then have that unconscious bias of
and we've talked about unconscious bias, and we've talked a lot about that, and it also kind of ties in to a lot of things, because I feel that like when you stand out and you get to a certain level of success, the worst thing to get is that resentment, because you don't know how much time people have sacrificed,
totally.
Whether it's a podcast and people have had to work 9 to 5s and record in the evening of how, like we are doing right now, after a long day of work, we're sacrificing our time. So if we ever become successful off this, all those hours, or you look at DJs, for example, you look at DJs who they might have a 9 to 5 and they're working late nights on the weekend. And then they finally get the big break. Maybe it's a production, or it's a song, or it's a set in Ibiza, and they might be getting loads of money. They've put so many hours.
You don't see what they've done.
You don't see what they've done, and I think like that's one sad thing about this tall poppy syndrome that we face is once you do get that level of success, it's the resentment that comes with it, and the lack of nuance around the sacrifices that were made beforehand.
Yeah, totally.
So on to the next topic is, how would you deal with this? Because I think that, like, how do you keep going when you sense people aren't fully behind you? Pause. That's just for the group chat.
I haven't even got that one. How do you do? I think it's a difficult one, because I think like you sort of like, I know we always say, look, it's not about how many likes, how many shares, whatever. But I think there's an element of, because you then measure, I think you use that to measure, A, if anyone's actually watching and listening, or B, is my content, or, you know, is our content good? Do you know what I mean? And there's nothing else to measure it with.
Yeah.
Likes and comments. So it's hard to, you know, even we always say like, oh, don't worry about how many likes. Well, you kind of do, because you think, well, I need to know, I need to gauge. So I think how you deal with it, I think you look at that to a degree, but you don't let it be everything. You know what I mean? You kind of have to say, okay, look, you know, there's more important reasons to be doing this, rather than, you know, obviously you want people to listen, you don't want to speak empty room, but you know, so I think it's difficult how to actually deal with it.
But I think again, it's that you've got to keep going. You got to do it for yourself. Exactly. You know, there's always going to be, like I said earlier, maybe off mic, I can't remember, but it's cringe until it works. You know.
Yeah, no, you said that on mic.
It's cringe until it works, and it's separating genuine feedback from noise. Like totally. Who's actually worth listening to versus who's just reacting out of their own sort of projections.
It's about Romy's episode. I mentioned a bit of this, kind of like, you know, is it just a case of somebody will look at the comments and kind of go with what everyone else is saying, or whether is it a genuine opinion? So that, going back to that as well, I think that's an interesting point.
And what I've noticed as well with the projects that I've done, there's a lot of like silent listeners, and I think the silent listeners are the ones who, obviously we have our people who message us every week, but there's a lot of silent listeners who, like, they might not comment, they might not, but then when you see them in person, you know, like I've mentioned a few times about the birthday party we were at last year, and it's a friend of a friend, and they would just, they knew all the episodes, they were talking to us, and we're like, wow, like you don't realize the effect you have. And I think sometimes it's just like,
it's nice.
It's really nice, because I think, like, obviously we're being genuine to ourselves, and we hopefully, you know, we're almost at 100 episodes. People have enjoyed it.
That's a much better yardstick to measure with, I think, than anything else.
Yeah. But in terms of like when you've had sort of feelings of you might be getting cut down or humbled, what's helped you personally? Like whether that's leaning on each other, friends, finding your actual support network, or just getting comfortable being uncomfortable. What's helped you?
I think I go through phases and waves, and I, you know, as we always say, one of my favorite sayings ever is beauty and terror. You know, feel it all. No feeling is final. And it's true. You'll have a day where you think, oh man, I posted something, like I posted a pod clip and it's not got the traction I thought it would get. But then I quickly say, you know what? That's the algorithm, man. That's the algorithm.
Yeah, but
and that's the thing. So that's one thing. That's one kind of, I just kind of put it down right. So, you know what? Forget this, switch off, get on a bit of TV, whatever, and just switch off from everything for a bit. And then you reset.
Do you know one thing I love about podcasting is we've had thousands of conversations, right? Remember a few years ago, you used to come over to mine, you used to chop it up and stuff like this. This is all like a timestamp of what we'd have anyway. And the fact that we're having these conversations, whether it's with guests or just me and Jamal, I can listen back to these conversations. A lot of conversations that me and Jamal have had before the podcast where we can't listen back to. So for me, it's quite nice to have the reference, you know. It's really nice because I think it just flows that way, and it just kind of just feels like what we talk off mic as well, so to a certain point. But just to close, standing out, this is just a statement to our listeners as well. Standing out shouldn't be something people have to apologize for. And I think that is something that I, you know, when I was researching about this episode, researching about the Tall Poppy syndrome, it's something that needs to change in the UK, because I think we're coming into a creator economy. You know, like I said, we talked about Cannes Lions, and a lot of people will be more. I think the creator economy will be worth 14 billion soon. You know, so there's not only going to be more podcasts, there's going to be more short form, there's going to be more YouTubers. A lot of brands are not even putting adverts out; they're going straight to content creators. So there's going to be a lot of people trying different things which are not the status quo. As we said in the previous episode, you know, we talked about the World Cup and talked about a lot of old ideas relating to previous sort of stereotypes. The stereotype of typical career in the UK is going to change. A lot more freelance, a lot more creators. So standing out will be the new norm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's already kind of getting that way a bit, but you know, but listen back to episode with Conduit, where you had a chat with Conduit about celebrating wins as a creative, because you need to do it. You know, you need to celebrate your wins. You need to shout about your wins, because how else are you gonna get to the next level if people don't know about, you know, any plaudits you get or any good stuff you create? You gotta shout about it at the end of the day.
For sure, for sure. And talking to shout outs, just before I end, shout out all our friends and all our creative collaborators who are at Cannes Lions. Shout out Romy, shout out Chanel Powell, shout out Adiola and Ronke from Black Creative Trailblazers. And you know, one day we could be out there soon.
Absolutely.
For sure, you know.
Here's open. I will get saving for my plane tickets and hotel tickets.
And celebrate your peers and your friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
No more of this tall poppy syndrome, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna be tall poppies together.
Yeah, and also a big shout out to Byron Cole for inspiring this episode. 100%. Great content. Do check out his videos on YouTube. It's something which I like to watch, and Touchwood, we love him as a guest. We love him as a guest in the future.
Hint, hint.
Well, that's been another episode of You Good Bro. I'm JD.
I'm John.
And we'll see you next week. Peace.